So, good afternoon. Welcome to Series 4 of the Pop Talks. Thank you very much for joining us on this cold, wintry afternoon. And today's topic of conversation is maximising your toolkit and strategies for working smarter, not harder, and being efficient and being effective. And again, a lot of you subconsciously will be using some of these practices already. The whole point of Pop Talks is to support you in your day-to-day role, to give you some helpful and practical tips and hints that perhaps you can try, perhaps you already use, perhaps it's something that you've heard of before and it's just a bit of a refresher. But we're here to support you and here to help you in your everyday role. So, Carla, if you could put the slideshow on, please. So, working smarter and not harder seems to be one of those kind of buzz phrases at the moment. And in the world that we live in at the moment, everything is 100 miles an hour. We've got all sorts of wonderful technology to help us be more efficient, to help us be more effective. Yet we seem to be working harder and harder as the years go by. So today is about looking at ways in which we can be more efficient, ways in which we can be more effective in what we do, and ways in which we can kind of slow certain things down and not be rushing around at 100 miles an hour all the time. Next slide, Carla, please. For those of you that have seen the Pop Talks before, there are a number of aims and objectives, and what I try to do at the end of each one is get you to commit to one particular change in practice. So from everything that we've discussed today, from everything that you've seen, is there one thing that you can take from this, that you can try, that you can attempt, that can help you in your day-to-day role? So by the end of this session, we're hoping to understand the importance of prioritizing your workload, identifying ways in which we can improve productivity and schedule our time effectively, because the time that we have within the day needs to be used efficiently, needs to be used effectively. The job that you guys do is a very difficult job, a very rewarding job, can be a very frustrating job, but it has a need to be efficient and to be effective. So hopefully some of the hints and tips that we're going to come across today, you can use in your everyday life, and you can share with colleagues. Next slide, Carla, please. So the overriding arch of everything that we do within these Pop Talks is based around something called the 5 C's. So it's based around a culture change. So how can we as practitioners change the culture of the service that we're working in? And you know, there are lots of techs and gadgets and things now that you can use in order to make things more efficient and more effective. But realistically, if we're looking at going back to basics, in order to change the culture of the service we're in, we need to look at how we communicate, how we collaborate, and how consistent we are in the message that we're trying to portray. So this is kind of an overriding arch that everything in Series 10 will fall into. Next slide, Carla, please. So maximising our efficiency, and again, a lot of these will be common sense. A lot of them you may subconsciously use already. A lot of them your colleagues may use. Another overriding arch of the collaboration section is about sharing best practice. I've seen some wonderful practice that goes on within the probation service, and it's about sharing that practice with colleagues and with other people within the service, because there are little pockets of things that go on that are absolutely fantastic. But if we can share that across the wider service and collaborate more together, then hopefully that will help us work a little bit smarter as opposed to a little bit harder. So in terms of maximising your efficiency, if you focus on high impact tasks when doing your to-do list, that should help you not only prioritize, but plan your day. So things that can have an impact on further down the line. So if you set at the top of your to-do list things that are going to have a bigger impact in the long term, it may not necessarily save you time now, but if you can focus on doing things now that save you time in the future, processes, systems, that kind of stuff, then that will help you with your day-to-day stuff. The next one on there is batch activities. So what that suggests is that you batch the different parts of your job that you do throughout the day. So again, you know, different people will do different things. Some people like to set out a to-do list the night before. Some people like to set out a to-do list on the day. Some people will have a continuous to-do list where things are being crossed off. You've got to kind of find out what works for you. Know yourself. Know, you know, the best way to work for you. And by batch activities, what I mean by that is kind of like putting different types of activities in particular sections. So for example, if you're working on something and an email pops through, maybe you batch your email replies to a specific hour in the day, so that, you know, when you're in the middle of something and an email comes through, it's not taking your chain of thought with you replying straight away. With batching these activities again, looking at your internal clock is important. Some people are morning people, some people are evening people, some people work best with the radio on in the background, some people work best at specific times of the day, some people like to reply to emails early doors. And again, it's about knowing yourself and knowing what's effective for you. A lot of this can be applied as well within a kind of fitness industry when people, you know, want to go to the gym. Some people are very active in the morning, some people are active late at night. And again, within your own work clock, when are you most efficient? And it may take a little bit of reflecting on your own practice to do this. When you've got, again, a large to-do list, sometimes that can be off-putting in itself. If you went to the shop and bought a cake, you wouldn't necessarily eat the whole thing at the same time. You would chop it up into smaller portions. That's very prevalent in education, with regards to teaching, with regards to practicing, that kind of thing. And the same can be applied in your day-to-day. If your to-do list is too long, it could leave you sitting there scratching your head thinking, I have no idea where to start. However, if you batch those activities, if you set a to-do list for each day and you keep updating that, if you are very reflective on the time of day when you work best and what things you can do at specific times of the day. And the other thing it suggests is kind of managing your surroundings. So where you work from, some people prefer to work from the office, some people prefer to work from home, and that's fine. We live in a world today that allows us to have that hybrid mix. And again, with your surroundings, it's about the distractions. So some people, you know, may need to remove their phone from their desk. Some people may need to, you know, have some kind of music on in the background. However you work best, and only you will know this, manage your surroundings. The other thing that I would suggest is looking at the practices of efficient people or effective people within your team, within your office. What is it that they do that allows them to manage their time better, to complete tasks on time? Again, you know, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There'll be things there that we can take from other people, that we can learn from. The whole point of the Pop Talks is continuous professional development, and we don't have all the answers. We don't have a magic wand that makes things more efficient or more effective. Sometimes it's a little bit of trial and error. Sometimes we've got to try certain things. We've got to look at different things. We've got to be open. And if it is at this particular moment in time that you don't feel that there are enough hours in the day, maybe reflecting on our own practice can kind of help that in some way. Next slide, Carla, please. Decluttering your workspace is another one. And I don't just mean your desk in that term. I've worked with people in the past where their desktop and the way they organise their emails would really set my anxiety off. Whereas if it's organised, if you've got specific folders, if you know exactly where things are, then that's going to help with efficiency as well. Because if you've got set tasks to do throughout the day and you know exactly where the paperwork is, where they are on your computer, the emails that they've come from, that will also help you be more efficient and more effective in what you're doing. Sharing best practice and resources. Again, we have, as part of the EPOP project, something called a resource library, and that's something that you can access through the HMPPS Teams channel, where people have put resources on that they've found useful. Again, not reinventing the wheel, but if you're doing a particular type of work and somebody's already created a resource for that, you don't necessarily then have to recreate something else. And this is something we should be doing in our teams all the time. If something works, then, you know, share that with your team. Allow them to have access to things that you've created that can kind of help you and them be more efficient, be more effective. Other hints and tips include: don't wait for deadlines or motivation, try and get things done early. Again, it'll depend on the type of person that you are. Some people, the moment they get something to do, will arrange to do that straight away. Others will look at deadlines and prioritize. And again, absolutely fine. A lot of these sort of things you may be doing already. A lot of them you may have thought, that will or won't work. Again, that's fine. For some of them, just give them a go, give them a try. I spent a lot of time in education, and we used to prepare students for exams and revision. And the final one on there, working 60 to 90-minute blocks, is something that they recommend within revision. So if you're working all the hours in the day, there are no breaks, there's no lunch, you're not getting out, then, you know, there's only so much that you can take on board. So if you work in 60 or 90-minute blocks and give yourself a little break at the end of that, or change the activity, they do say as change is as good as a rest, then that should help you be more productive as well along the way. Next slide, Carla, please. KISS is something that I came across years ago, and it's really kind of stuck with me. And you can pretty much KISS anything. And what the whole process is about reflecting on your own practice and looking at how you can improve that practice. So KISS actually stands for 4 different questions that you ask yourself. And again, you can KISS your own practice, you can KISS your team's practice, you can KISS different projects, you can KISS your relationship if you wish. You can pretty much anything, you can ask these 4 questions to yourself. So the acronym for KISS, and I know you guys love acronyms in the probation service, is: what do I, in terms of my efficiency and effectiveness, need to keep doing? So what's working really well, and what do I want to keep doing because I know that works? The next part of it is the I, which is improve. So what is it that I'm doing at the moment that seems to be working but needs to be improved? For that to be more effective and more efficient, what do I need to improve about my practice, about whatever it is that you're trying to KISS? And these 2 questions now, the S element of the KISS, again, are really important. So what is it I need to start doing? You know, an example may be not replying to emails straight away. An example may be batching the workload. An example may be sharing best practice with others. So what is it that you need to start doing? And equally as important, particularly if you want to be efficient and you want to be effective, what is it you need to stop doing? What do you spend time on that isn't effective or isn't efficient? And sometimes that reflection, and you can do this as an ongoing thing, you know, you don't just do it once and that's it. You can constantly KISS your practice and the practice of others and a project and a team. I looked at doing this with my football team, Birmingham City. I won't go on about the results, but the improve section and the start and stop section were relatively heavy, shall we say. Next slide, Carla, please. Right. Multiplying time is a concept that I came across on a TED talk. So for those of you who like listening to TED Talks, there's a gentleman by the name of Rory Vaden who does a lot of research on time management. If you type into Google or YouTube, multiplying time by Rory Vaden, it's about 16 to 18-minute clip. Really useful, really insightful. Please feel free to, go and have a look. And what he suggests is that time management and the theories around it haven't necessarily taken into account that sometimes time management can be emotional. So you may feel like you have to spend time on a certain thing because of the emotional attachment to another person or an emotional attachment to something that you've promised. He also looks at a three-dimensional efficiency model where tasks are kind of given a priority based on their urgency, their importance, and their significance. And he talks a lot about prioritizing. So how do we spend more time on things that will save us time tomorrow rather than just doing the same menial things over and over again? And the example that he gives is kind of paying your bills. So an everyday example. Most people now have direct debits and standing orders set up, but by setting up those direct debits and standing orders, you don't continually have to visit and repay your bills. It's already done for you. So what he suggests is that in whatever line of work you're in, how do we set up processes and systems that can help us more in the future? How can we save time by doing things now that will ultimately save time in the future? A really interesting listen, and again, only sort of 16 minutes long. Next slide, Carla, please. He also asks a number of questions with regards to prioritizing and being efficient and effective. And the first question he asks is, do I need to do this? Is this something that I need to do? And do you give yourself, in certain instances, permission to ignore? His kind of three-way element of looking at it is, can I eliminate the task? So does it need doing? Is it something that I can kind of put to one side, or I can kind of recycle for another time? To automate the task, and again, that's about, can there be a system or a process that kind of automates that for me to save time in the future? Or, as the art of management says, is this a task that I can delegate to others? And again, dependent upon the role that you're in, dependent upon the line of work you're in, and dependent upon how big your team is and what your job description is, that may or may not kind of distinguish whether you can delegate. But really interesting kind of theories in terms of efficiency, effectiveness, and knowing ourselves, how to get the best out of ourselves. When do we work best? How and what and when are we most effective? And if we are struggling for time, and this is a really fast-paced industry, the job that you guys do is a fantastic job. And it's also a reactive industry, whereas you can have your day planned out, or what you think is your day planned out, and then something can happen which kind of sends that into a whole new world and a whole new plan. But when we're trying to be efficient and we're trying to be effective, it's worthwhile sharing best practice, helping other people, and looking at our own practice. How can we be more efficient? And that's something that, I don't have a magic wand to, but hopefully you'll know enough about yourself and enough about the service that you're in to trial and error a few things. Next slide, Carla, please. Hopefully we are, with all these talks, we're moving towards staff being more accountable for their own practice, for practicing what they preach. So some of the advice that we give, people who are on probation, are we doing similar things ourselves? Have we all got aligned values? Are we all behaving in the same kind of way? Is there an element of collaboration and teamwork going on? And are we accountable and reflective about what it is that we're doing? And again, I've seen some of the fantastic work that goes on. It's a difficult job. And there are some fantastic practitioners out there. And can we share the positive things? Can we share the good things? Can we share the things that make our job worthwhile and a little bit easier if that's the case? And the whole point of these talks is to kind of just give you snapshots and things that you can try.